buy these Yu-Gi-Oh cards before they skyrocket in price.
My guy,
My friend, my brother in Christ. We back at it again. What's going on with ya, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that's your day. Phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Damn, I have not said that in a long time. In my last video, we talked about a ton of Yu-Gi-Oh cards that you should be picking up, some cards that I picked up and made me a ton of money. Bro, you remember those Guardian Chimeras? Those Flying Chimeras? And those X8 Encores we picked up? Crazy! And with that money I made, I actually used it to invest into the cards that I'm going to be telling you about today. Of course, big dog, there are still some other cards in that video, so go ahead and check that one out. And also, if you wanted to get this information a little bit earlier, consider joining my Patreons as a special thank you for helping me pay my editors. But without further ado, let's talk about these new cards that I picked up and the cards that I think you should pick up before they skyrocket in price. One of the biggest problems when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Players simply don't know when to buy cards and when to sell cards. So I made these videos because I wanted to help you out as a player. I know exactly how it feels to want a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card that has gotten way too expensive because people have caught on how powerful it is. And I'm also here for your undying loyalty and you using my TCG player down below in the description every time you buy from TCG player. It helps me out, like, a lot. I think it should be pretty obvious, but the 2023 Mega Tins were huge. They reprinted some really important cards, but some cards that I'm going to tell you to buy, they didn't reprint. Divine Incarnate Kirakara, Sprite Blue, and Ultimate Slayer are massive cards that did not get reprinted in the 2023 Mega Tins, and to be honest, we don't know when those cards are ever going to be printed again. And seeing that Divine Incarnate Kirakara is one of the most powerful cards in the game right now, everybody's going to be looking at that, so make sure you cop yours before it's too late. There's actually multiple reasons why I'm picking up these particular Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I'll be breaking it down throughout the video. I can't wait to go back to these videos to see how much I got right or how much I got wrong. So one of the reasons why I picked up some of these cards was future-proofing. There are a ton of cards that players are using in Japan right now that we aren't using because we don't have certain cards. But once those cards start coming out right here, players are going to flock to this card. Trust me, it happens every single time. Now, of course, you got to look through it through a scope, as not every trend translates, but that's why you got me, big dog. I think that Fantastical Dragon Phantasme is actually going to be a really good card, and that's why I picked up 3 copies. Fantastical Dragon Phantasme was actually one of the best cards in the entire game at one point in time. What happened to it is that Konami actually initiated a rule change where you don't need link monsters to be able to special summon other type of monsters from your extra deck. Holy crap, those were the dark days. That's right, Sonny. I remember back in the days, in order to X8 summon, you would need to place a link monster first. And every single time, Fantastical Dragon Phantasme would come in clutch. Now, the reason why I think that this card will be an excellent card in the future is strictly because there's going to be a couple of decks that are heavily reliant on link monsters, and this card not only provides a free body to your side of the field, it allows you to draw into your cards and reshape your hand. And the cool thing about this particular card is that it does come in multiple rarities. I personally picked up the Secret First versions is because those were the original print, and those have the biggest opportunity to go up the highest. Now, I don't necessarily think that the other ones are a bad idea, but I don't speak broke. Who am I kidding, guys? I ate cereal with a fork one time. I'm broke. Fantastical Dragon Phantasme is a really good card that I noticed that players were using, but that's not the only card that I seen players were using. Another card that I just so happened to see was Retaliating Sea, and we talked about that card in length in our last video, so go ahead and check that one out too. What I've been noticing about what's happening in Japan right now is that a lot of players are using spell cards to be able to special summon monsters, and what Retaliating Sea does is banish any card on the field, which can greatly hurt those decks. Another cool thing about this is that when they actually do get rid of Retaliating Sea, you can search Max Sea. Max. I'm having Master Duel flashbacks, guys. Don't bring that shit over here. Assuming that we don't get Maxi in our particular card game, a really good substitute would be Contact C. The card does prevent the opponent from using it for any type of summon unless they use that card, which is actually really hard to do the way that Yu-Gi-Oh decks are going. Japan isn't just a blueprint on figuring out what type of cards may be really popular over here. It's actually also a strong indicator on which strategies are going to be extremely powerful as well. Especially when Konami can only give you so many hints to these particular strategies through upcoming booster sets and also product releases, as well as upgrades. I think that there's quite a few cards that could impact the future meta Yu-Gi-Oh decks, so much that I even made a video about it, and you can go ahead and check out that video as it has some really good information. But digging down into it, I personally think that Rescue Ace will be one of the best decks and almost is untouchable by the Forbidden List. That's why I went ahead and bought 3 copies of Rescue Ace Hydrant at about $25 a pop. Granted, we probably should have picked them up when I was telling you to buy them at $7 a pop, but $25 is actually relatively cheap considering that not a lot of players know how powerful this deck really is, and this is a time where players tend to not buy Yu-Gi-Oh cards, which I think is completely ridiculous. Granted, from the outside looking in, it actually could seem completely foolish to buy Yu-Gi-Oh cards around the time of a ban list, but seeing that a lot of people aren't buying Yu-Gi-Oh cards, that's actually when they're the cheapest. I know that it may seem like a little bit of a gamble, but hey, sometimes you have to take those risks if you want to be able to make yourself in this card game. Also think some of the smaller cards for Rescue Ace are really good pickups, such as Alert and Rescue. Keep in mind that these cards are the exact same rarity as the expensive Rescue Ace Hydrant, and nobody wants to open up a box just to get these particular cards. I also decided to go full dive into this deck and invest into a card that some of the players play. Its name is Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid Neo Tempest Terahertz. Where did they get these cards names? A collector's rare of this puppy was only $30, and this is actually a really strong card. If not for Rescue Ace, then somewhere down along in the future where Cyber's decks are completely strong. Now, if you really want to get nasty and dirty, my friend, and take full advantage of Forbidden List scares, you can also even pick up Purrely. Purrely is a strategy that was hit on the last Forbidden List, and I don't think it's gonna happen again. I think it was a very fair and balanced hit, but even if it does, I think it will still be one of the best decks in the game. I actually picked up additional copies of My Friend Purrely, and Pretty Purrely Memory at a really great price, and I'm actually not gonna sell them right now, even though they went up a little bit. I'm gonna wait till after the ban list and people realize that this is one of the better decks to be able to get rid of these cats or dogs or foxes. Bro, I still don't know what the fuck these things are. I also wasn't able to get ultimate rare copies of Pearl Lily just yet, but at $25 for an ultimate rare card, which is a must play as a 3 of inside of a Yu-Gi-Oh deck, you better believe your ass I'm gonna get that card.
Make sure your boy Cali got that dog in him.
Roof. Speaking of strategies, another deck that I talked about, which is in a set that nobody wants to buy, is Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul is actually one of the most consistently powerful decks when it comes to doing well at highly competitive events, so we already know it's a pretty decent deck. I also think that Vanquish Soul has almost a 0% chance of being hit on the ban list, making it the perfect candidate for cards that you should buy before they skyrocket in price, because once that ban list does roll around and these cards are realized as really good, then you're gonna be in a situation. Keep in mind, at very worst, Vanquish Soul does still get more support inside of the next set, Age of Overlord. This could be one of the better decks in the game. With that being said, the 2 most obvious cards to pick up right now are Stake Your Soul and Raisin. These are some of the most powerful cards for the deck and some of the most needed cards for the deck at 3 copies each. You should 100% look into picking those up, but also seeing that Konami decided to give this deck the royal treatment and to make all of the cards pretty much ultra rare and above, you might want to pick up your Vanquish Soul Heavy Burger, your Rock the Vanquisher, and your Mad Love, which is really crazy for an entire deck.
My guy, Konami, what you doing? You know there's like 2 other archetypes that you put in this set.
Rescue Ace, Purrely, and Vanquish Soul just all happen to share one thing in common. They are all really competitive archetypes that have actually been doing well pre-ban list. They're also relatively new, meaning that Konami is less likely to hit them, but the more important thing is that they all come from box sets that no one wants to buy. Both Maze of Memories and Wild Survivors have such terrible pull rates that Yu-Gi-Oh players don't even want to risk paying that much money to pull those particular cards. They'll just rather buy them on TCG Player, which, by the way, you're going to be using my TCG Player link, right? right? Which ironically makes these cards a lot more powerful now, especially right before the ban list. There's actually another archetype that just so happens to fit that criteria. Soul Burning Volcano is easily one of the worst Yu-Gi-Oh sets in history. My guy, this set is so bad, they're selling it for $34 a box. That's for a loss. But despite this, Salamangreat has actually been a perennial deck that can actually stand to gain something from the ban list as opposed to lose something. That's easily why I picked up my copies of Salamangreat Fire for $20 each. Well, technically, I didn't pick them up for $20 each, but I bought the boxes, so you get what I'm saying. And for the people that think that Salamangreat Fire is at its peak, you're gonna have to realize a couple of things. If Salamangreat Gazelle actually does come off the ban list, that would increase the popularity of Salamangreat, thus increasing the popularity of Salamangreat Fire in a set that nobody wants. Yeah, you're screwed, my guy. Basically, I'm telling you, even $20 is kind of a steal because I don't think it's going any lower anytime soon. Outside of archetypal Yu-Gi-Oh cards, I've actually been looking at Book of Eclipse. This card just had a print in the Battles of Legends Monster Revenge set as a secret rare, but that's actually the only print that's really good looking. Look, man, I'm not here to argue semantics with you. The commons, okay. The rares, okay. The super rares, kinda cook. The ultra rares, medium cook. The secret rares, the biggest cook! And personally, I don't care that Battles of Legends Monstrous Revenge just came out. Secret rare copies of Book of Eclipse, no matter how much they're in abundance, is still a card that has a limited quantity. I am 1000% picking them up alongside of my Book of Moons, depending on what route you want to go, because there's so many different rarities. I think that a really good balance of cheap but high rarity looking would be the ultra rares from Turbo Pack, but you can pretty much go down whatever route you want to with this card. And lastly, a card that I think that we should have just in case is easily Forbidden Droplet. Forbidden Droplet used to be a mainstay Yu-Gi-Oh card that everybody had inside of their main board, but ever since Kashtira appeared, the card kind of faded into obscurity. And I'm not necessarily predicting that Kashtira will get slaughtered on the ban list, but if it does, Droplet is actually a great card. And that's all that I have for the cards that I invested into. I can't wait to see what I was right about. I can wait to see what I was wrong about. And of course, big dog, if you like this amazing content, you already know what to do. Be sure to join the Shadow Gang, big dog. But also, make sure to check out these other videos so I can catch you on the next one.